Welcome to the 12th podcast of the Merseyside Pensioners Association, recorded on August the 15th, 2020. It's not just for pensioners, but for everyone. In today's programme, we examine the fight back against the government's robbery of TV licences for the over 75s. We join the Liverpool rally in support of underpaid health workers and nurses. We get a surprise when we try to contact the Cabinet Office. We premiere an exclusive, surreal and worrying interview with the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock. Today we are joined by a rich mix of guests, including Ian Byrne MP, campaigner John Dunn, MPA Chair Julie Lyon-Taylor, MPA Secretary Audrey White, Joe McNeil from the UCU, and we have a special message from Kenny Campbell, who has been in hospital and is full of praise for the health workers who looked after him. This is pensioner Phil Maxwell saying welcome to the programme.
Every law, every regulation that you have to protect you in work has been won by people of my generation who fought hard and bitterly. And we have to make sure that we defend those rights, that we protect the gains that we've made, and that we fight, and we fight, and we fight.
That was Audrey White at a recent socially distanced rally calling for fair pay for health workers. We'll be hearing more from Audrey later. Recently, NHS workers across the UK took to the streets to protest against the scandalous neglect of thousands of vital healthcare workers. The Tories' recent public sector pay rise announcement demonstrated the contempt that the ruling rich elite have for the people on the NHS front line who risk their own lives daily in hospitals and care homes. Over 1,000 people gathered in Liverpool for a socially distanced rally that was organised by second-year student nurse Laura Hother and member of the recently formed Nurses United organisation. Laura gave an amazing speech highlighting the injustices she and her colleagues face on a daily basis.
There's 44,000 nursing vacancies in England alone. Disgusting. There's 100,000 vacancies in the NHS. 44,000 of them are nursing vacancies. And they still haven't got the message that they need to look after our nurses. We're going to give them the message. Pay us. You're not going to use us. You're not going to abuse us. And you're going to bloody lose us. We want a fair pay rise. MPs have had 8 pay rises above inflation in the last decade. In the last decade, the average nurse has had a 20% pay cut. We want a fair pay rise because we want to uphold amazing patient care. We don't want to go home crying because we feel like we didn't do our jobs good enough and that we couldn't give the patients what they needed because there wasn't the staff, there wasn't the equipment, and there wasn't the flipping energy to do it.
There was a large contingent of Merseyside pensioners at the rally, and MPA Secretary, the indomitable Audrey White, gave a message of solidarity.
We're a massive group in Liverpool. We're very, very politically motivated. We support the workers on strike wherever we're on strike for a decent pay. Everything that's been, every law, every regulation that you have to protect you in work has been won by people of my generation who fought hard and bitterly. And we have to make sure that we defend those rights we protect the gains that we've made, and that we fight, and we fight, and we fight. The Merseyside pensioners send their support and solidarity to the nurses and all of the workers in the National Health Service. We see you, the nurses, the care workers, the cleaners, everybody who takes care of the people in this country in terms of their health under the umbrella of the National Health Service. You are the best of our class. It's difficult for you to fight, and we recognise that. And solidarity is the only thing that will help us to beat these attacks on our class. They are prepared to let nurses and care workers go unprotected through the lack of PPE and pathetically ask us to clap while this obscene act is being undertaken and people are dying by the tens of thousands. We expect the government to protect us. They failed, and now they're abusing the nurses, the care workers and the cleaners by not giving them an increase, at the same time giving the police and the armed forces, who will be used against us, a big increase. We support you wholeheartedly. We are starting a campaign to protect the measly act of the Tory government in taking the television licences off the over 75 years old. And to do that, we need your solidarity. Those who are over 75 are locked in their homes. They're afraid of dying of this coronavirus. The only thing some people have is the television, and this government is taking it off them. So I'm asking you, within your unions, within every organisation that you're in, please show solidarity with us too. We want people to stop paying the television licence until such time as the government reinstates free television licences for the over 75. It's a radical thing to do, but these are radical times, and we will do everything to support you, and I hope that you would show solidarity with us. Thank you so much.
All NHS workers and health workers in general deserve a decent pay rise rather than the derisory pay rise the government has put forward. Tory ministers love photo opportunities where they are clapping for staff, but they won't pay them a decent rate for the job. Unlike some nurses, politicians don't have to use food banks to feed their families. Merseyside pensioner Kenny Campbell knows how important the NHS is because he's recently come out of hospital.
I'd just like to tell everybody in the MPA and anyone else who's listening or whatever, how fantastic our health service is. I felt like I was King of England, but I'm not a king because I'm not a royalist, but I believe in, socialism, and I believe in the people around me, and the nurses and the doctors were absolutely fantastic. They couldn't do enough for me. Once they told me I was terminally ill, I sort of a bit of a shock, obviously. I was in a deep state of shock, actually. But I'm very philosophical. I'm turning on to myself and I said, well, hey, Kenny, you've got a lot to live for, lad. You've got great-grandchildren, you've got grandchildren all grown up. They're all doing well, and you've got a wonderful family around you. And I've also got wonderful friends. But I'd like to say, personally, that if people don't realise what they're going to lose by the National Health Service, then obviously they're walking around with blinkers on, like the old cart horses on the dock. So basically, Phil, and to all my friends and colleagues and comrades, I just like to say thank you for your support. Thank you for all your good wishes. And I'm very lucky to have such a wonderful family as I've got. Now then, they say no, they couldn't tell me how long I've got, but then again, how long's a piece of string? So basically, I'd like to say this to all of you. I met some very, very, very good people and very good friends and comrades in the MPA. And I just wish you all the best of luck, and you carry on with the campaign, and hopefully we can turn the clock back and I can sort of get up there and maybe come to an odd meeting or two. Because my family have been absolutely fantastic, but Agnes has been an absolute brick. I'm not very mobile at the moment because I'm quite weak, but I'm putting weight back on and I'm basically doing okay. And once again, our wonderful health service needs all the support which it gets off our association and many other people. But people need to be aware that if they don't get out in the streets and complain and march, then they're letting Boris Johnson steal the greatest gift that this country's ever had, which is our National Health Service. Thank you, Phil, for giving me the opportunity to voice all I've said. And I'm a little bit stuck for words, and it's a very emotional time. But good luck to all my comrades, friends, and associates. And I hope in 6 months' time, a year's time, I'm still talking to you like this. I'm sitting looking at my garden, which my sister-in-law Yvonne, who lives with us, has been there for 20 years. She had an unfortunate situation with her husband. He died young, and his girls are like my own daughters, and they live with us. Well, not Arcade doesn't. Arcade's moved out now. I'm just looking at our sunflowers, and the sunflowers, I'm just looking now, they're about, must be going on 3 foot now. So I'm, looking at my garden, which Yvonne's garden, and, she looks after it beautiful. Well, Phil, I'm getting a little bit tired now. I'm tongue-tied. Thank you very much.
That was Kenny Campbell. Kenny is a great campaigner and was marching on the last MPA demo in support of free TV licences for the over 75s. We all wish him well. The treatment of health workers by the Tory government is a disgrace. Stay with us because later on I will be interviewing the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, about Tory hypocrisy. Merseyside pensioners don't take Tory attacks lying down. They agitate, organise and fight back. You can watch a new short film about their campaign against the government's robbery of free TV licences from the pensioners. It's called Don't Switch Us Off. Ken Loach says it's excellent, so it must be worth a watch. And it's free to view on the Merseyside Pensioners YouTube channel. To mark the launch of the TV licence campaign film, the MPA held an online rally at which the importance of the campaign was neatly outlined by former miner and Orgreave Truth and Justice campaigner John Dunn.
Can I thank you for this invite? It's always a pleasure to mix with comrades from the Merseyside Pensioners Association, and it's just a pity that we can't be there in reality. But when Phil asked me to speak at this, it gave me an opportunity to take a bit of a trip down memory lane, because in the 70s I was a councillor in a little town in Derbyshire called Claycross. We became famous for, not implementing Housing Finance Act and getting surcharge and things like that. But one of the things that we did way back then was we gave free television licenses to all pensioners, not just the 75s, but to all pensioners. And why did we do that? It weren't because we thought, pensioners had nothing better to do than sit glued to telly all day. It was because we recognised that these people had given a lifetime of struggle and commitment to our society, had paid taxes, had worked hard, and actually deserved just a little bit of reward in their retirement. And now it's an absolute indictment of a sick society that the government, via their agents in the BBC, are doing this. And if we go back just a few months ago, if you remember, Priti Patel talked about 8 million economically unactive people. And I think that sums up what this is about. If you're not working, if you're not paying taxes, if you're not being able to contribute as they see it, to keeping their society going, then you're worthless. They've sent tens of thousands of elderly people home to be murdered in this cull in care homes without tests, without anything. And each one of those deaths represents a saving to this government. And that's what this is about. It's part of the onslaught against ordinary working class people. And if they can't even give people, and isn't it ironic at the height of this pandemic when the only thing that many people have had to keep from saying is to watch the television, to pass the time and to ease the boredom, to continue with this cut during this pandemic is the height of cruelty. And I think that it's about tying up all the campaigns, because if they get away with robbing pensioners of this, the young will be next. All benefits will be slashed, and we've got to stand together and start fighting back. And if we can win just on one thing like this, imagine the confidence it's going to give to the rest of the people that Boris and his cohorts of murderous Tories can be taken on and made to back down. And it's also, we've got to remember as well that this lot have raised the pension age. It's now, and they've got think tanks that are talking about working till you're 75 years of age. Can you imagine that? Not that there's any jobs to go to anyway. Well, that's what this is about. It's about cuts, it's about austerity, and it's about an attack upon our class. And we've got to stand united, we've got to stand firm and fight back. And we've got to make sure that we end up not just fighting these Tories, but fight their system. A system that says a pensioner can't even get a few quid a week towards their television licence. That's a rotten society, and we need to change it, comrades. Thank you.
That was John Dunn, a great friend and supporter of Merseyside pensioners. He was joined at the online rally by Merseyside MP for West Derby, Ian Byrne.
My mum's 76, and when the pandemic broke, she had to go in shield, and she lives alone. And without the telly, I shudder to think what would have happened to her, because she like many others struggled living on her own, and she couldn't see me. But that was probably a blessing in disguise. But I think with the grandkids that she really missed speaking to, and we had to go and knock on the door, drop food parcels off, and then stand a distance away and shout to her and speak to her. So I really understand the importance of this, and she's only on pension credits. She barely gets by. So doing what they're doing just shows you the levels what they're stooped to. And as you said, Johnson put it in the government manifesto. And from my perspective, I'm pleased Starmer's come out and and trashed it. Joe Stevens has had to go from the Labour Party, but tonight I'd like to say, whatever I can do working with the MPA on this issue in my limited role as a lowly backbencher, linking in with the Socialist Campaign Group and trying to do what we can to basically use building the grassroots movement, because it'll come from this. The change will come from the power of the grassroots movement that you create, and that's where it'll come from, and the power of what you hold in your hand. And for me, it's about building what you are doing whatever I can with the links I've got to link in locally with the MPA, but also nationally. So, that offer's there, whatever I can do, I'd be absolutely delighted to do. The total blame for this, for me, lies with the government, with the Tories. Blame's got to lie with the government. They made a calculated decision, gone against what they actually said in the manifesto. and they're just going ahead with it. This is just the start. This will be an attack on universal benefit. The winter fuel allowances Jan outlined to be next. Then obviously the triple lock. Universalism is socialism, so they'll attack it. So for me, whatever I can do, the links I can get, you'll get your full support from me, and let's see what we can do moving forward. So solidarity to you all.
Campaigner and activist Joe McNeil is chair of the Liverpool University UCU branch. Merseyside pensioners supported the UCU in their last strike for decent pay and conditions. She appears in the film Don't Switch Us Off, so we were pleased she was able to speak at the online rally.
We've had 22 days of strike action since November from UCU, and there hasn't been a single day or a single demonstration that we have not been supported by the Merseyside pensioners. They leave us standing. I mean, we're active in the University of Liverpool branch, but this lot leave us standing. They really do. They're absolutely amazing. We need to remember that pension poverty is on the rise again. It did start dipping at one point, but it's back on the rise again. And £154.50, when you haven't got it, it might as well be £1 million. People cannot afford it. I mentioned in the film, the people who you're hitting are people who stood up in the miners' strikes and the dockers' strikes and the strikes that, formed the positions that we're in our workplaces today. So I don't want to spend my time reiterating what I've said already. I want instead to talk about how we can help you to move this campaign forward, because it's at a crucial point right now. And I think, with this loom on the 1st of August, if they don't overturn it, we do have to move to the can't pay, won't pay. We have to expand it beyond this being just a campaign about retired people. It's got to be everybody's problem, because at some point we'll all be 75 and we'll all wish we had a free TV licence, because the way it's going, our pensions are being hit, our wages are being hit. We're losing 600 staff at the minute at the University of Liverpool. People won't have money to pay for television licences at any point in the future. So we've got to step up. I know we're limited at the minute because we're at home, but social media is a very good tool. You can do socially distanced protests, but I think the trade union movements have got a big job to play here. Each and every single branch has got union has got a retired members branch. We need to link with them, but we need to feed it through motions in every other branch as well, and not just in UCU, in every trade union. The TUC Congress is coming up in September. We need to take something to the TUC Congress, because if this goes through, we still need to organise this boycott of this payment. And it needs to be on a mass mobilised level. So it takes organisation, it takes a high profile, and you're doing that. This is the first step in that fantastic campaign. And to build around this film, and for us to be able to go away after this and tweet about it and use the film and get people to start thinking about it and talking about it, that's priceless. And it's, the work that's gone into that is fantastic. So let me know what I can do. I'm going to that TUC Congress. I mean, some of you got better connections there than even what I've got, so we need people to start looking at how we can get this raised, this profile raised, and whatever I can do and whatever UCU can do, we will do, because you're always there for us and we will always be there for you no matter what. Solidarity.
Audrey White mentioned the TV licence campaign at the Health Workers Rally we heard earlier. She concluded the MPA online rally with a message from Ken Loach.
So this is from Ken Loach. Thanks for this chance to share a couple of thoughts with you. And thanks for letting me see the film. Excellent. It's always great to hear you all speak with such passion and clarity. Well done again, Phil and Haz. The government should keep TV licences free for the over 75s. If the BBC pays, the money will come from cuts to programme making. That gives even more advantage to commercial television, Netflix, Amazon and the rest. This is the government's plan. Reduce the BBC to the USA equivalent, a worthy channel that is not part of mainstream television. Many of us know that the BBC is not on our side. Politically, it has always supported the establishment. We saw it in the miners' strike. We saw it in the attacks on Jeremy Corbyn. We see it whenever the left is on the rise. But we must distinguish between the BBC's politics and its value as a publicly owned national broadcaster. BBC, defend the latter and reform the BBC so that it is truly independent and not an arm of the state. Social benefits like free TV licences for the over 75 should be universal, paid for by progressive taxation, where those who can afford it pay more. Then there is no means test and everyone benefits. So well done, yet again, pensioners of Merseyside. You are a lesson not only to all pensioners, but all who care for a fair society. Keep battling. It's the best way to stay young at heart. Solidarity, yours youthfully, Ken.
Audrey White there, and she replaces Grace Oliver, our former MPA secretary. Grace has taken on increased care responsibilities in recent months and had to stand down. We wish Grace and her partner well and say thanks for all the hard work she has put in as secretary. Grace featured in our first podcast extra, and she told us about her extraordinary life. Merseyside Pensioners Association Chair Julie Lyon-Taylor rounded off the meeting with these words.
The film is a message really to the government and to everyone that they can dismiss us. They think it might be okay for us to all die off in care homes and not to have a proper NHS service because of the incompetent way this government have handled things. But it's not okay, and they're not killing us all, and we're not going to go away, and we are going to continue fighting. The fight is still on.
You can listen to all of the Merseyside Pensioners podcasts by going to the Merseyside Pensioners YouTube channel. There's also some films you can watch featuring the campaigning work of the MPA. You can also hear us on Liverpool Community Radio FM 106.7 or online. You can also find us on Anchor FM. Remember, if you have something to say, then contact me by email at maxwellphotouk@yahoo.co.uk. Stay with us because later on I will be interviewing the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, about Tory hypocrisy, lockdown and Dominic Cummings. If you are lucky enough to get through to a poorly paid and overstretched worker in a call centre, remember they are not to blame for the long wait. The other day I attempted to arrange an interview with Matt Hancock through the Cabinet Office and was shocked to discover that the switchboard had been outsourced.
Your call is very important to us and will be recorded for monitoring and extortion purposes. Now, let's get you connected to your dream sales section. Have your credit card ready and choose from the following options. Surgical gowns, press 1. Surgical visors, press 2. Surgical masks, it's 3. Surgical gloves, press 4. For COVID-19 test kits, press 5. For personal pleasure devices, press 6. Or to have dinner with any member of the royal family, press 7. If you wish to have an inappropriate relationship with any of the current cabinet, press 8. Or to speak to one of our helpful dream facilitators, press 9.
Well, I'm pleased to tell you that I never went for any of the options and just hung up. They say persistence in the end pays off, and I'm pleased to say I did eventually manage to catch up with the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care and MP for West Suffolk. Mr. Hancock, thanks for finally agreeing to come on the programme. We've been trying to interview you for some months now. You will recall that Dominic Cummings broke the lockdown and travelled all the way from London to Barnard Castle in County Durham. Your boss, the Prime Minister, defended Cummings' trip, saying he, quote, followed the instincts of every parent and behaved reasonably and legally. Is it not the case that he broke the law? Or are you going to tell me that he was following guidance rules and didn't break the law?
Yes, I'll make it absolutely clear. Well, what I'm saying is that people need to follow social distancing right across the board. And one of the challenges we've had is that we've seen more interaction between households, and it is so important that people follow those social distancing rules. And in the same way that people shouldn't go to the pub, for instance, people shouldn't go to hospitality with people from other households, but they can with members of their own household.
Well, you're not answering my question, are you? He didn't go to the local pub. He travelled hundreds of miles and went to a castle. Are castles covered by your guidance? Are castles exempt from the law if you're rich and famous?
Well, you've got to follow the social distancing rules. So that was the point that I was trying to make.
With respect, Mr. Hancock, you're still not answering the question. We know about social distancing rules and the vast majority of the public are following them. I want to know if there is one rule for the likes of Mr. Cummings and another for the rest of us. My point is that he clearly did break the law. Mr. Cummings is now branding refugees who are trying to save their children by seeking asylum as, quote, dangerous and criminal.
Well, the answer is that people should not be indoors with other households because that is how the virus spreads. But it is okay to be outdoors in public places, like parks, for instance, again, so long as you follow the social distancing rules.
What about being indoors in a castle with other households?
That is against the advice. But the point I was making is about the specifics of the law, which is that this law applies to people who are in the affected area.
So what you're saying then is that a castle is not an affected area and that therefore Dominic Cummings just went against the advice but did not break the law. Are you actually saying that Mr. Cummings is innocent? Yes.
So if you are in Wilmslow, then these rules do not apply to you if you live in Wilmslow.
Mr. Cummings doesn't live there. What's Wilmslow got to do with it?
And the problem is that the virus doesn't respect the different borders. The virus doesn't respect the differences between communities, for instance. And so I understand that that's a challenge, but we're just trying to be as clear as we can.
Mr. Hancock, I'm sure this is not making anything clearer for our listeners. In fact, you sound very confused. Don't you think the public are now fed up with your apparent inability to recognise the truth?
No, I'm really clear, and the rules are really straightforward, which is that if you live in the area affected, then you should not be having two households together, indoors or in a garden. But you can meet outside, in a for instance, in a park, so long as it's socially distanced. And you can go to hospitality, but only your household and not meeting up with members of other households.
Right. So let's be clear. Can we all go to Barnard Castle whenever we want?
Yes. We have not brought in any travel restrictions.
So if Dominic Cummings wanted to go abroad to set up more lucrative contracts for his mates, that would be okay. He could lie and just say he was going on holiday for an eye test, I suppose.
Yes, you can go and you can go on holidays, but again, people should not be travelling to visit other households.
Mr. Hancock, are you still there? Sorry about this, but we appear to have lost Mr. Hancock. Well, the Secretary of State for Death has still got his job because the whole lying Tory gang always sticks together and never owns up to the fatal policies and mistakes which have cost the lives of many thousands. You may ask, how do they all get away with it? Well, one of the answers, of course, is that they have the support of the mainstream media, led by the BBC, which acts like the propaganda arm of the Tory government. This month is the 75th anniversary of the atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just listen to this.
So yes, I have a very special slow moment for you today. 75 years ago, this very day, the US Air Force bomber, the Enola Gay, dropped an atomic bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. It missed its intended target of a bridge and detonated instead 2,000 feet above a hospital.
That was BBC Radio 3 rewriting history on a classical music programme. So there you have it. The bomb missed its intended target of a bridge. This kind of spin feeds into the myth that the military-industrial complex wants us to believe, which is that you can have surgical strikes with weapons of mass destruction. The idea of having a surgical strike with an atomic bomb is ludicrous and serves to blunt the reality of what an atomic weapon is, namely a weapon of mass genocide. When the United States dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people. For many, the devastation was immediate. Others lost their lives from the impact of burns and shock, and countless more from radiation, which also affected subsequent generations with cancers and birth defects. Does the BBC want us to forget the consequences of the use of such brutal weapons of mass destruction? Never again should we see such senseless harm inflicted on so many. The global prohibition of nuclear weapons is in the best interests of all of us. The War Game, a film depicting the impact of a nuclear war in Britain, was banned by the BBC after pressure from the government in 1965. It seems that nothing has changed. If broadcasters like the BBC told the truth about nuclear weapons, we would move closer to their total prohibition. This is Merseyside pensioner Phil Maxwell saying, I really hope you've enjoyed this programme. Thanks to my producer Hazman Hashim and everyone who contributed to the programme. Until our next podcast, stay safe and solidarity. I leave you now in the safe, musical hands of pensioner Phil Newton.
This may be appropriately named after our cooped up situation. Pent Up House. It's taken as a breakneck speed by Sonny Rollins, the composer of a big band, so this is my adaptation for violin, but it's nowhere near the speed he takes. It's really breakneck. And its repetitive melody could be seen to a sort of frustration about pent up or cooped up. Here we go. Well, I'll have to do that again. Sorry about that. Ooh. The wrong repeat bar there somewhere. Pent-up house.